Thank you for joining us for this presentation. I'm Kristen Ravello, the Supervisor for the Structural Metals and Fabrication QA Inspection Unit in the WSDOT Bureau of Structures, and today I'll be providing an overview of the fabrication-related changes for the 2019 standard specification. Topics to be covered today include the Bureau of Structures fabrication initiatives, WSDOT fabricator and contractor roles, and the requirement changes beginning with the 2019 standard specification. The changes outlined in this presentation in part are the result of two fabrication initiatives conducted by the Bureau of Structures. The Tier 1 initiative began in 2014 and focused on steel fabrication. The Tier 2 initiative began in winter of 2017 and focused on four areas: prestressed concrete girders, retaining walls, sign structures, and secondary fabrication items. For each initiative, BOS partnered with a consultant to assist us. With the first initiative, the Bureau of Structures worked with URS, and for the second initiative, we worked with Michael Baker International. As part of each initiative and focus area, interviews and surveys were conducted to determine which processes were working well and which processes had areas that could be improved. Included in this outreach were the Bureau of Structures staff, WSDOT region staff, fabricators, steel producers, and consultants. We also reached out to our counterparts in other state DOTs to learn about their processes. One area of specific interest was current shop drawing review practices in other states. For each focus area, our current policies and practices were documented, and a report for each initiative was created by the consultant based on the BOS steering and oversight team input, including the findings and recommendations for improvement. As a result of the first tier initiative, there were several significant changes to our processes for steel bridge fabrication. For those of you not familiar with these changes, I will discuss them briefly. The first notable change was the creation of the Contractor Certificate for Shop Drawing QC form, or the DT 2333. This form includes a checklist of items based on AASHTO NSBA Guideline 1.1 to be verified by a professional engineer. The signature of the contractor indicates that the shop drawing has been reviewed and that they are an accurate representation of the contract documents. This form must accompany each submittal of steel bridge primary member shop drawings. We created a fabrication library for the steel bridge fabrication documents. This included shop drawings, mill certs, weld procedures, QA inspection reports, etc. We began requiring a weekly fabrication status report from the fabricator for each structure, which is the DT 2172, and a fabrication storage and shipping plan, DT 2330, which ensures that the fabricator was considering the method of storage and shipping for all steel members prior to having the members loaded on the truck and realizing that there might be an issue. The most notable change with this initiative was beginning to shift our steel fabrication focus from quality control to quality assurance and reducing the percentage of shop drawings we reviewed to better align with the quality assurance role. With Tier 2, our main objective was to build on the effort and outcomes of the Tier 1 initiative, structuring and implementing a comprehensive process for the four focus areas. These processes needed to be clearly defined and documented, ensuring seamless, timely, and consistent construction fabrication support for projects. If we were trying to capture the overarching theme of both initiative outcomes in a single PowerPoint slide, this would be it. Our program goal for the WSDOT Fabrication Quality Assurance Program is to consistently enforce the submittal of required documentation and enact quality assurance. How we intend to do this will be highlighted in greater detail throughout this presentation, but I will briefly touch on each of these areas now. The first item is providing consistent and clearly defined electronic submittal requirements for fabrication documents. Providing guidance for all parties regarding roles and responsibilities. This includes BOS, regions, and consultant construction project staff, fabricators, contractors, and shop or plant QA inspectors. Ensuring department quality assurance and contractor and fabricator quality control roles. Modifying standard specifications and CMM for clarity and enforcement. And the last item is clarifying approved fabricator requirements. This includes documenting what the requirements are for fabricators requesting to be added to the APL and standardizing the process for fabricators to apply. As a result of these two initiatives, we realized that although the intent of Bureau Structures was to provide quality assurance reviews of shop drawings, In some areas over the years, in practice, we were actually providing quality control reviews. To realign with the intended roles of the contractor and fabricator, providing shop drawing quality control and department quality assurance, we are no longer reviewing 100% of shop drawing submittals. Which shop drawings we review will be determined by the Bureau of Structures. For shop drawings submitted to the Fabrication Library, you will be able to check to see the status of a shop drawing for your project. There is a feature in the library where we can select whether a shop drawing will be reviewed, requires resubmittal, or was accepted. Moving into the new requirements for projects let beginning in December 2018, the first new requirement is the Contractor Certificate of Shop Drawing Quality Control form for pre-stressed concrete girders, sign bridges and overhead sign supports, retaining walls, and fabricated bridge components. Unlike the checklist included in the DT 2333 form for steel primary members, the 4 checklists are based on common shop drawing errors found during past Bureau of Structures reviews. Also, the 4 forms do not require a professional engineer to perform the review. The fabricator and contractor, or wall system representative and contractor for retaining walls, must sign these forms. These signatures indicate that a quality control check of the shop drawings for accuracy and conformance to the contract plans and specifications was completed by the fabricator. For each shop drawing resubmittal, an updated Contractor Certificate of Shop Drawing Quality Control form is required. Included in these checklists is a line indicating that all Contractor Verify or Field Verify queries have been resolved. We want to ensure that any fabricator questions have been resolved prior to submitting the shop drawing to the Fabrication Library. For material substitution requests, fabricators should be utilizing the RFI process rather than adding a note to the shop drawing or contacting BOS directly. We are not reviewing all shop drawings and want to ensure that all parties are aware of such requests and the department responds prior to fabrication. As a result of a request by a fabricator to allow electronic signatures for contractors and fabricators completing the Contractor Certificate of Shop Drawing QC forms, BOS is currently working with the DTSD Innovation and Technology section to evaluate the feasibility and implementation of incorporating electronic signatures into our current process. Without electronic signature, there is clerical effort in providing the required signatures on the Contractor Certificate of Shop Drawing QC forms, including printing, signing, scanning, and emailing. Electronic signature would minimize this effort. We are currently facing several changes with implementing electronic signature. We have experienced issues with electronic signatures in DT forms locking shop drawings, restricting BOS and region staff from being able to add review comments on the shop drawings. The method we choose would need to allow signatures and review comments to exist within the same document. We are looking to find the appropriate software and processes that will meet all parties' needs while minimizing the level of effort required for BOS, contractors, and fabricators or wall system representatives. The desire of BOS is to continue to require that the Contractor Certificate of Shop Drawing Quality Control form and shop drawing be submitted as a single file. This is driven by the fact that we have experienced past issues with Contractor Certificate submittal compliance when they were allowed to be submitted separately. The Contractor Certificate must be completed prior to the shop drawing being submitted to the library. We feel that incorporating electronic signatures into our current process is feasible, and once we determine how to best accomplish this, we will let you know. At that time, we will add electronic signature guidance to the Fabrication Library Submission Standards document on our website. Similar to what was required with the first fabrication initiative for steel bridges, for the 2019 standard specification, the next 2 slides will cover 3 new forms for fabrication status reports. The first slide covers pre-stressed concrete girders, fabricated bridge components, sign bridges, and overhead sign supports. These status reports will need to be filled out by the fabricator on a weekly basis, and this single report will include all items the fabricator is fabricating for all WSDOT structures. The form can be found in the Fabricators folder in the Fabrication Library. The fabricator may edit the form within the library, or they can upload an updated version of the form each week. Guidance for updating the status reports is included in our Submission Standards document, which is available on our website. The second slide covers prefabricated steel truss pedestrian bridges. Although prefabricated steel pedestrian bridges weren't intended to be a focus of the second fabrication initiative, we determined that we wanted to include the fabrication status report requirement for prefabricated steel truss pedestrian bridges as well for consistency for steel fabrication. These status reports will need to be filled out by a fabricator on a weekly basis, but unlike the other two forms I just discussed, this report will be required for each structure being fabricated. The fabricator may edit the current form within the library after original submittal, or they can upload an updated version of the form for each week for the structure being fabricated. Again, guidance for updating the status reports is included in our submission standards document available on our website. As I previously indicated in this presentation, the Bureau of Structures is no longer reviewing 100% of shop drawings to align with the intended role of Department Quality Assurance. However, for welded wire fabric substitutions for pre-stressed concrete girders, Bureau of Structures will continue to review 100% of these substitutions. This review and acceptance of the welded wire fabric substitutions will need to occur prior to the submittal of the shop drawings and contractor certificate of shop drawing QC form. Welded wire fabric substitution should be submitted to BOS through the fabrication library. With the 2019 standard specification, we have created two new approved fabricator lists. They are for steel bridge primary members and steel sign bridges and overhead sign supports. The fabricators must be listed on the APL at the time of let. If you have questions regarding whether a fabricator is qualified to fabricate for your project, please contact the Structural Metals and Fabrication QA Inspection Unit, and we will be happy to assist you. With the 2019 standard specification, we also replaced the previous secondary fabrication items list with a list of fabricated bridge components. Fabricated bridge components include railings, expansion devices, diaphragms, and steel bearings. For the corresponding approved fabricator list, we created 4 corresponding lists to indicate which fabricators are approved to supply these components. To provide components for projects, you must be on the appropriate list at the time of let. To assist region and consultant project staff, contractors, fabricators, and QA inspectors, the Bureau of Structures has created a Fabrication Resources webpage, which includes APL application forms and directions for application submission for steel bridges, fabricated bridge components, sign bridges, and overhead sign supports. In the future, we will continue to add additional application forms for consistency in other areas. We also have included links to the fabrication forms referenced in the standard specification for structure fabrication, as well as a link to our roles and responsibilities document. To access this website, please see the link at the bottom of this slide. With the November 2018 Construction and Materials Manual release, there were several sections with updates that we would like to highlight. The first is Section 520 for steel bridges. Included in these changes are clarification of the shop drawing review process and updated guidance for shop and field welding. In Section 545 for railing, the requirement for field inspection for aluminum railing was added. Sections 555 and 560 provide guidance for post-award acceptance of design-build noise walls and retaining walls. And Section 875, which covers the material testing and acceptance for structures, was updated to include the methods for obtaining approved fabricator status for primary steel, sign structures, and fabricated bridge components. The qualifications needed to be considered for addition to the APL and the loss of approved fabricator status. In line with our intent to provide clear guidance regarding the roles and responsibilities for all parties involved in our fabrication program, the SFU created a reference guide. Included in this guide are definitions, roles and responsibilities of all parties, SFU contact information, required documentation based on structure type, and associated standard specification references. This document is available on our website. With regard to the standard specification changes for 2019, there is one area in particular I would like to highlight. Beginning with the 2019 specification, the Bureau of Structures made changes to 105.2, Supplemental Plans and Drawings, adding 105.2.2, which adds fabrication library requirements. One of our efforts has been to provide a consistent submittal mechanism for shop drawings and other fabrication documents. And beginning with December 2018 let projects, these documents will need to be submitted through the fabrication library. Also included in 105.2.2 is the requirement that shop drawings and calculations need to be submitted a minimum of 14 days prior to the start of fabrication. This lead time will allow us to review shop drawings if selected, and also give us time to write work orders to provide QA inspections of the fabrication shops and plants as needed. Please be aware that although 14 days is the default requirement in 105.2.2, there may be additional lead time required in the SPVs for your project that may be greater than 14 days, such as for MSE walls. So please make sure to verify what the contract-specific requirements are for your project submittals. If you have questions regarding the content of today's presentation, please submit your questions to the email address shown on this slide. We will also be assembling a list of frequently asked questions and answers on our website. The link is shown here. Thank you for your interest in this topic, and I hope you found the content beneficial.